Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. I'm Mona Duncan, your moderator, and we present each week someone from the Glasser Institute kind of breaking down and seeing in more visible ways how to use the concepts of choice theory, reality therapy, lead management, and the quality schools. And we are blessed today to have Lucy Billings with us, and her topic is revisiting internal and external locus of control. So welcome everyone. And Lucy, I want to turn it over to you.
Okay, Mona, thank you. And thank you for inviting me today. I feel really lucky to have this opportunity to share with you. And there's a real big chance that I will learn as much today from you guys as you learn from me. And as fate would have it, we all got on Zoom this morning without too much trouble. And if there's no Zoom bombing or Zoom trolling, we should have a great conversation about the locus of control. I'm kind of watching the faces as I'm saying that, and I'm seeing a little smile because I think you know what I've just done, right?
Yeah.
I have just done opening remarks with 4 sentences, and in the 4 sentences, there's 4 references to external locus of control. But if you weren't focused on control, then you might have missed it. You might have just said, oh, well, that's a nice, interesting remarks or opening to her speech. But see, that's what we're here for today, to really be focused on that concept of locus of control. And we're going to examine it mainly through our language and our beliefs, but also I'm going to come back to our open remarks, and we'll also be talking about behavior. Now, I'm not going to talk in detail about behavior because Sharon Bogdanovic just did a few weeks ago a really nice Making Sense of It presentation on our behavior and external control. So mostly I'm focusing on the beliefs behind it. I also thought about maybe doing a little on-screen testing, but most of the people who come to this Making Sense of It are going to be test sure. We would know how to answer tests so that we come up looking like we have a locus of control that's internal. So I moved that, but I'm going to start with some real basics, like a real quick definition of each term. So the term locus of control refers to how much control a person has in their own behavior. And locus, the word itself, locus, just simply means the site or the place of control. People with high internal locus of control perceive themselves of having a great deal of personal control of themselves and their own behavior, and are likely to be more responsible for their own behavior. And in contrast, people with a high external locus of control believe that their behaviors are being the results of external influences. So it's where you see control in your own life, either internally inside of you or externally outside of you. Now, by the way, Dr. Glasser never used the phrases locus of control. It's very popular in psychology, but Dr. Glasser received his MD in 1953, and he completed his training in Los Angeles between 1954 and 1957. And the concept of locus of control was developed originally by Julian Rotter in 1954. So most of Dr. Glasser's training and thinking about external and internal control, beginning thinking about it, was before the term was used so widely in psychology. But Glasser did use terms internal and external control, and he used internal and external psychology a quote from his book, The New Psychology of Personal Freedom Choice Theory. He says, this external psychology is a terrible plague that invades every part of our lives. It destroys our happiness, our health, our marriage, our families, our ability to get an education, and our willingness to do high quality work. It's the cause of most of violence, crime, drug abuse, and unloving sex that's pervasive in our society. So he talked about it in detail in all of his writings and in every session, every training that he did or lecture that he did. But let's go back to my opening remarks, and I'm going to read it to you again, and with you listening with your control filters on. Okay, I said, I feel really lucky to have an opportunity to share with you. And there's a really big chance, excuse me, that I will learn as much from you today as you learn from me. And as fate would have it, we got on without too much trouble. And if there's no Zoom bombing or Zoom trolling, we should have a good conversation about locus of control. Luck, fate, chance. That's the language I use. That's the language that's based in the beliefs of external control psychology. I want to talk about 4 main beliefs we see with people with a high external control psychology. And the first one is those 3 words, luck, fate, and chance. Those folks with that high degree of external control, let me get my language correct. External locus of control thinking, believe life events are about luck, chance. Some people get lucky and others don't. Everything is completely random and up to fate or chance. That's their belief system. So out of that, we get things like compulsive gamblers and gambling addiction. Because if a belief in good luck and you believe that it's a personal trait and that you own it, then you're going to gamble with it. And we saw that over and over again at Harbor House, where they worked with people I was a consultant there for 17 years, and they began working with people with addictive gambling. It also reminds me of when Dr. Glasser went to North Mississippi to Tunica, and where there were 9 casinos, and we were at the casino convention center, and everywhere in the convention center it said, good luck, good luck. There were signs everywhere. And Glasser just got such a kick out of that. He talked about it in every presentation and at lunch, and with any time he would say, yeah, good luck. And I can't mimic him, but he would say it with that little twist on the end that lets you know he didn't believe there was any luck involved, that the casinos were running the show here. So life events are about luck and chance. That's the first one. The second thing that people with high external control psychology, external control, locus of control, is that they have little or no control over their own life, and that outside forces are exercising control instead. Well, that was also in my opening remarks. I used the behavior of blaming. I was blaming Zooming bombing and Zoom trolling about the results of whether we have a good session here or not. And blaming is the behavior that comes out of that belief system of having little or no control, that you blame those things outside of you for your own not being responsible for behavior. The third one is an interesting one for me, long-term goal setting. People with high, external locus of control believe longer-term goal setting isn't worthwhile because something's going to interfere with it. Why make a plan? It's better just to go with the flow and see what happens. Well, I was working with a counselor, an alcohol and drug counselor, who had some issues she wanted to talk through. And I said, well, let's call her Elaine, because that might have been her name, but maybe it wasn't. Anyway, I said, Elaine, what's your 5-year plan? And she said, well, I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. I don't know what will be going on or where I'll be. And I said, well, okay, what's your 1-year plan? And she said, well, it's the same thing. I don't know. Nobody can tell you what's going to happen in 1 year. And I said, well, what's your today plan? How did you get here to see me? Didn't you have a plan to get here to see me? She said, no, my husband reminded me that I was supposed to come. She was the most external person I'd ever worked with. She had, and that no long-term goal setting or goal planning was the key that led me to that acknowledgement of her external control side of external control. And she grew up in an alcoholic family. And as I started looking at other people that came to me for counseling, I would find that it was true that external locus of control is prevalent. It is the belief system of most alcoholic families. So let's look at number 4. And that belief system is that what happens to people isn't related to what they really deserve. Good people who work really hard can have problems and don't succeed. And greedy, evil people who don't deserve anything sometimes get lucky and get it all. So that's their belief system. And out of that belief system comes behaviors like learned helplessness, victimization, and entitlement. And just a few of the many behaviors that we work with as therapists and counselors come from that one belief system of external control. Now, I know most of us here already know the belief systems of choice theory, so I'm not going to go through those. We have those in our knowledge bank already. I want to talk about the beliefs of people with internal locus of control in a more global sense. And as I just did with the external control, because they're basically mine and the ones that I grew up with. And the first one is that by working hard and practicing self-control, it's possible to achieve anything I set out to do. I create my own opportunities, and I don't wait around for luck or for someone else to be responsible for it. The second one is that no one has predestinated fate. Even if that were true, from my internal point of view, I believe that in fact, we can start over at any time we want to. I said that everybody has second chances, third chances, fourth chances. You can start over. If I didn't believe that, I couldn't have worked with alcoholics for all these number of years if they didn't have the ability to start over, because they don't want to bring what they are doing in and try to rectify it. They need to start over sometimes. And then the next one is people do at the end of the day get what they deserve. Our choices and our actions determine our happiness. They determine our successes. And if you work hard and treat others with kindness and respect, you're more likely to succeed. So I was teaching choice theory class, and I had this therapist in the class, and she also taught at a university, and she kept talking about how lazy she was. She was just a lazy person. And I kept thinking, she's trying to tell me something. I don't know what it is. I kept listening. And finally I said to her, lazy people don't get PhDs. So what do you need to convince yourself that you're a lazy person? And it was that she didn't want to put in the effort that's necessary to be published as a professional. And in the university level, if you're not publishing, you're perishing, sort of thing. And so she was then saying, using this external excuse of that sounded internal, I am lazy, so that she didn't have to put in the hard work and effort to succeed. Maybe it might have been fueled with her fear of not succeeding, but even so, what we put into something determines what happens. And then the last one, and right back to the, in contrast to the external one, it's important to set goals and create personal vision statements so that short-term actions can influence long-term events. So all of my adult life, I've had a personal mission statement. And in my training and teaching, I teach other people to set up their own personal mission statement, just not organizational mission statements, but my personal one. My very first one was to make a difference. And it wasn't long before I was mature enough and had enough self-reflection to see how extremely narcissistic that one was. But and so through the years, my personal mission statement has changed. But as I was putting this together for you guys, I thought, I don't really have a retired personal mission statement right now. That may be something I need to work on. Most of it, my personal mission statement was about me being out in the world instead of me being at home with me. So those are the external belief systems, external locus of control belief systems, some of them, and some internal locus of control belief systems. Now, in the Institute, I would hear my colleagues and people talking about how choice theory changed their life, saved their life. And I would, and maybe some of you think that, that might be true. But I got to thinking, maybe this doesn't seem right. Maybe there's something wrong with me because it didn't change. It didn't save my life. Maybe I'm missing something that those people got that I didn't get, to hear all that internal language that because I was a little bit different from someone else. And then with a little bit of reflection, I realized that I came into choice theory with a really strong, fairly strong internal locus of control. I grew up with these internal belief systems. I heard you can do whatever you set your mind to. I heard you can do what you want to do if you work hard enough. I didn't hear it once. I heard it a lot. And and after all the evidence says that our parents or our caregivers, those people that influence us in our childhood, teachers, grandparents, they play the major role in how a child develops a locus of control. So choice theory didn't change my life. It did a lot of things. It enhanced it, and it gave me new tools, and it gave me new ways to help people, and a lot more. But when choice theory gives someone a completely new systems of belief, it does and can save lives. While pondering save lives, and that's why I was so insistent at Harbor House that we teach everyone there, all the staff, all the clients, everyone that came through it. We taught them choice theory. We gave them we helped them choose. We can't give it to them. We helped them choose new belief systems that work more effectively and that help them be more successful. Now, when I was pondering or kind of putting this presentation together, I would often also be playing my game Candy Crush on my iPod. Any of y'all played that Candy Crush? So in this game, anyhow, in great big letters on the page, it says, "You failed. You did not finish all the orders." And in the next page, it says, play as many levels as you can, try again, and keep collecting streaking beads or streak beads. And I started thinking, man, this Candy Crush game really knows internal locus of control choice theory. And then I would click on the next level and it would say, good luck. You know, so there it was. It had both. Well, I kind of think we humans are like my Candy Crush game. We have both. Now, we are primarily one or the other. You know, I am primarily an internal locus of control person, but I think we can have external beliefs on top of that. Now, Rotter, as I mentioned, who developed this term, suggested that locus of control was on a continuum. Well, that doesn't work good in my head. Continuums, you either start here and go to the end, or you go to the ends and work toward the middle. And a locus of control continuum looks like you need to be at the extreme ends of both the things. So that concept didn't work good for me. Now, and Dr. Glasser and many of my colleagues teach it as an either or. You're either choice theory or, you're either choice theory or external control. And there's that kind of, it fits. But even though I may be primarily internal locus of control, I really love that Candy Crush wishes me good luck. You know, I have that good luck in there somewhere, still, that belief system. So here's what I think. I think that everything we do, every breath we take, every choice we make, everything we think about, our total behavior, every feeling, physiology, thinking, doing, whatever, everyone, and there's millions of them a day, everyone, we have a choice. It can be internal or external. And the more our belief system is based internally, then the more likely we are that our choices will be internal. But we can always, every one of us know we can always choose an external behavior. We know that that's possible. Also, I've seen people, and I'm not sure that this fits in my thinking either, that teach it as either or good and bad. The choice theory is good and external control psychology is bad. And evidence does show, and we know from choice theory, that people with internal locus of control do have, for the most part, better lives. But I think there's a few simple exceptions that we ought to look at. And one is, if a person has a strong internal locus of control psychology, but lack the capacity or ability to fulfill it, then that will present problems. Now, the internal locus of control won't hurt them. It'll better their lives, but it will increase the problem, increase the out of balance of not being able to do it. For instance, my special needs adult son is highly functional enough to know that he can't function like everybody else, and that presents him with problems. So that's the first exception. And the second exception is very similar to it, is that people who lose the capacity or ability to function, like folks with ALS and Parkinson's, and in the early stages of dementia, those horrible things that take away our ability to not to think and know that we control, but to literally do the controlling. So, and then the third group we don't hear a lot about, but they are out there in the world. And that's those people who have a high internal locus of control, but they also have a belief that the world is a battle or a contest or a competition where they must win, where every relationship they're in, they have to come out the winners. And so those folks, even though they have a high internal locus of control choose behaviors that destroy, can choose behaviors that can destroy and hurt others. So those are the three exceptions that I could pull together where internal locus of control, again, it doesn't hurt them, but it does present that dilemma for them. And then there's two other things. Most of the studies on external and internal locus of control show that externals, I'm sorry for shortening it. I've labeled them now. Sorry, that's very external of me. External locus of control folks make better team players than folks with high internal locus of control. Now, I'm going to guess Mona, Sharon, the rest of us, Sue, the rest of us sitting here, we've had this conversation either in our head or out loud. Okay, here's my conversation. I have said in this meeting for 2 whole days, and I could have done what we got accomplished in 15 minutes on my own, and it would have been better. Mona, I see that smile you have. It's a big signal that you have a high internal locus of control, because we don't make really great team players. What we have to do to become team players is we have to put being a team player in our quality world pictures and make it as big and shiny and yellow as our own capacity to get things done. Okay, so I got tickled at Mona smiling so loud and lost my place. So I believe, going back to my assumption or my belief that we are primarily one or the other, but that external beliefs can live with our primary choice. And there are two that come to mind for me, for most people. And the first one is I can be a high and low internal locus of control, and also have the external belief about superstitions, right? Knocking on wood, spilling salt, black cats, number 13, breaking a mirror. How many of you had black-eyed peas for New Year's? Yeah. See, there's an external right there in your internal world, right?
And greens. Got to have greens too for the money part.
Oh yeah, greens too for the money part. Yes. So my daddy, who was 40 when I was born, so he grew up during the Depression and was real poor Mississippi family. He said, if you had black-eyed peas at New Year's, if you had any left by New Year's, then you were lucky. So that's the way he said that black-eyed peas were lucky. But if you still had some left by New Year's, you were lucky. Okay, so see, that external belief system lies with our very strong internal locus of control, or our primary internal locus of control. The second one is a little more controversial, okay? And that is the belief in God. The belief in God is an external belief system. Now, Dr. Glasser never talked about religion, and he never, or politics. I've heard him many times. He would make this little kind of saucy, I would say, or not racy, but saucy joke when people would ask him about religion or politics. He said, I never talk about religion or politics or sex. I never talk about sex. And everybody would give a little laugh, you know, and then the question that had been raised about religion or politics or sex was never answered. But other people did. Albert Ellis, who was a friend of Glasser's, and the founder of rational emotive therapy, was among the many who talked about in the field of psychiatry and psychology that talked about and strongly criticized religious adherence and especially Christianity. Ellis said the concept of sin is the direct and indirect cause of virtually all neurotic disturbance. I mean, he was as strong about that as Glasser was about external control being the plague, you know. So for a long time, I would try to balance the external control, my external control belief in God, with my very high internal sense of control by saying that God was part of me and that I am part of God, and that God is in everything. And so he's inside of me, and that makes it internal. And, you know, what I was doing was trying to balance that difference of internal locus control and an external belief system. And that worked for a long time, but now I've balanced it in a different way. And like Glasser, I'm not going to talk about that too much, just that I've come to the realization that we're not perfectly 100% internal locus control. And even people who look 100% external control aren't, that we have both external belief systems and internal belief systems. But the more internal belief systems we have, the more likely we are to choose to be internal. There's a lot of studies. The one area of external control and internal control that's studied and researched the most is this question of God. And Glasser did admit, Dr. Glasser did admit that there could be positive outcome from external control. One he mentioned often was drug addicts being sentenced by courts and judges to treatment. That is the positive outcome from an external control behavior. And the research on this, on Christian and God work, also suggests the same thing, that even if it is an external control belief, it does bolster individual sense of control to a Christian adherence or a Christian belief. So, Mona, how am I doing?
You're doing good.
Okay, have we got a couple of minutes more?
Go ahead, we'll let you have it.
Okay, while I close, I'm good. There's so much. I would encourage people to look at all of this. You can Google internal and external locus control and read for days and days and days on the studies that have been done about it. But while I'm talking about studies, let me add this closing thought. Some studies show that with age, people develop a more internal locus of control. And I know that's true for me. Since I retired, it's so much easier to choose internal locus of control and behavior. Easier to choose than when I was out in the world working. Even easier to choose than even when I was with other control theory people who we both knew what we were doing and choosing internal locus of control. It's just so easy to choose it here for myself and with me and my husband and here, until a few months ago when we got a new puppy. And you all know who has control in my house now, right? Yeah. Can you hear him in the background? He's just barking away at the lawn people out in the yard. So my husband and I both have had little moments where we've lost our, where we gave away our feelings to our puppy because we have no control over him at all. And he lets us know that all the time. So I'm going to close right here. And I hope I have stirred up some thoughts and questions today. So, Mona, you want to facilitate that part of the session?
Well, yes, we're not going to continue taping with all of the interaction with our audience today, but you're definitely, whenever we stop the recording, but a couple of things I wanted to comment on is that whenever you were talking about the continuum and the either or I always like to look at it as the both and.
Both and? Okay.
Both and, it's both and sometimes, you know, they're at odds with each other because it's within us. It's both the external and the internal. But as we can look at that with all of the protest, you know, we all have the same basic needs, but we can be very protesting about, anyway, it's both and, it's that both
and. That's a nice way to say it. I'm saying that we have a primary one, and we can have external thinking in that, or external beliefs in that primary one.
Right.
Yeah.
The primary
So
and the secondary. Yeah. But the thing that I just really put a big yay to whenever you were talking was where you looked at the fact that blame comes out of that belief of fate.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have that belief of what fate will be and it doesn't, then it begins to place blame on all the things that got in the way.
Yeah. It just about any of the as I said, Sharon did a nice job with this, but any of the disconnecting habits you can go right back to some external belief system that brings them to our world.
Yeah. And in telling about your life and learning choice theory and reality therapy, that it didn't save your life, I agree with that for myself personally. I love it. I appreciate it. I had such a good upbringing in positive as well as negative role models to know what to follow and what not to.
Yeah.
But the fact that reality therapy and choice theory gave validity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It helps in so many ways. Giving validity. It felt like a glove when I found it. You know, it just fit all the way around, and that here are a whole group of people who believe just like I do, and I don't have to fight with them about this.
Right. Even if they may not agree with you on a lot of things, it's still okay because we can still be friends and love one another. Okay, well, I'm going to close out the recording, and everyone that is here, we will open it up for you to make comments or ask questions of our speaker, Lucy. So thanks for being here, and many blessings to all.